Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Shooting the Skype. I'm GID123, and I am with me as always is Miracle. Say hi.
Yo ho, a pirate's life for me.
That franchise started out really good and then really went downhill fast. Although I like the third one, it's kind of okay. Da da
I like
da
the,
da da da.
the thing about the third one, and I'll go ahead and say this to go ahead and kick things off. I like the third Pirates of the Caribbean. The problem is the issue that movie has a hard time standing on its own, especially because you have to get through the second one, and the second one is the most boring ass movie I have had to sit through in a long time. I don't know what I saw in the second one when I was little, because as soon as they get to the fight on the beach and Elizabeth just sits down cross-legged on the beach just like a child, I'm like, what the hell am I watching?
But it does have some funny jokes.
It does have some funny
Like,
jokes.
remember, I got jar dirt. I got jar dirt.
My best friend just goes ham with that joke sometimes. The memes that has spawned is hilarious.
Pirates and its memes before Johnny Depp was found out to be a domestic abuser.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
and there's a fifth movie where Barbosa really has an attractive daughter. I don't know why we needed that, but we got it.
Yeah, well, it is Barbossa's daughter, so I'm not surprised. Barbossa is a looker. It's
Joel, are we talking about the same person? I mean, no offense to Gregory Rush, to Jeffrey Rush. That man is a phenomenal actor, but he's not the best looking guy in the world.
Well, I love Barbossa. He's
I
impressive.
love Barbosa too, Joel, but
They should have made the Pirates movie without him afterwards.
I would have been fine with that. We would probably would have gotten some good movies. I mean, I love Jack Sparrow. I love Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow. But the thing is, he's been that in pretty much every single thing he is. Lone Ranger, Jack Sparrow. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Jack Sparrow.
Well, I don't know what he's doing in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That ain't Jack Sparrow, and that sure is not Willy Wonka.
It's like Kristen Harlow from the show says that Johnny Depp as Michael Jackson just didn't work.
Yeah, especially after what we found out about in his personal life.
Yeah, folks, we're not going to get into a whole can of worms of that is Michael Jackson or anything like that.
And Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Oh,
Especially because anything that has or will be said about domestic abuse has been said before 1,000 times, and Joel and I can probably not add to any form of conversation whatsoever because most of the stuff we would say has been said before.
and said better.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, well, that got depressing.
Yeah, what a great way to start off with Shooting the Sky.
But,
With
but
domestic abuse on Shooting the Sky. Y'all know exactly where you come for your domestic abuse.
yeah. Well, in lighter note, hey, Transformers getting rebooted, maybe.
Maybe. That's a maybe. I've heard. The funny thing is that kind of sparked on the internet, and I have not heard a thing about it afterward. Apparently, the writers' room for that thing has been disbanded, Joel, as far as I know. Akira Goldsman and Akiva, whatever you say his name, Goldsman or whatever, and all those guys have been disbanded. They're not writing for those movies anymore.
The reboot movies or the Michael Bay movies?
The Bay movies.
I don't even know how much power those writers even had. They still like aren't a few of those like the guys who did Daredevil season 1? That's what I heard.
If that's the case, I don't know what the hell they're doing with Transformers. Akira Goldsman's is the most notable. He won an Oscar for something, maybe for Batman and Robin for the screenplay for that.
Batman and Robin won a screenplay Oscar.
Maybe, or he won something. He won
That
something.
doesn't seem right. That those words do not.
Look that up, people, and fact check me on that. I'm not going to start a rumor. Don't take anything. Folks, never mind. Don't take anything Joel and I say word for word. I'm just throwing that out there. We are not your steady source of information. I mean, Joel and Red may have been steady sources of information for Imperial HoloNet, but
I can look. What's his? I can look it up right now, actually, because I'm right here. What's his name again? How you spell it?
Akiva Goldsman.
Akiva Goldsman. Okay, I'm gonna spell it just like it sounds, because there we go. Oscar winner. He won an Oscar for Beautiful Mind.
Oh, Oh, that's what he won an Oscar for.
Oh, it's a Ron Howard movie. He also wrote.
Yeah, I
He
love that. I love Beautiful Mind.
let's see.
He
He,
wrote the screenplay for Batman and Robin. I do know that.
let's yes, and Batman Forever. He co-wrote that one with Lee Batchelor and John Scott Blatcher apparently.
Yeah,
Let's
so
see. Anything else you might? He wrote Da Vinci Code. Is also a Ron Howard movie. He wrote King Arthur. No, he just produced that. Never mind.
yeah,
He did the story for Transformers last night, but the screenplay was by Art Markram and Matt Holloway and Ken Nolan.
yeah. So as far as I know, those guys have been disbanded. They are no longer writing the movies. The only movie that's in the Bayverse, if the rumors of a reboot are true, the last movie that's going to be in that series is the Bumblebee movie. Answer me this, Joel. Why would you do a Bumblebee movie? Because let's be honest, Transformers has not been in its prime, no pun intended, prime popularity in the past few years.
Yeah, but Bumblebee's kind of been popular for a couple years. You mean he was pretty big in the Transformers Prime series?
Oh yeah, I know that. And
Big in the
Bumblebee has always
movies.
been a big character. I don't know what you could do I don't know what there is to do with a live action Bumblebee movie with this version of Bumblebee that hasn't been done in the first Transformers movie.
Oh, I wouldn't know either. I'm just saying.
That seems like such an odd choice to go for, especially when you're not doing it with Shia LaBeouf.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're just hoping to bank on Bumblebee.
Maybe. Though to be fair, Joel, after how last night performed, I can't imagine they're very confident in this movie anyway.
I'm surprised they're still making it. To be quite honest.
I'm surprised too. I'm surprised they even gave the time of day to a reboot.
Okay, a
I mean,
reboot. I think is probably no. A reboot makes sense because that's what happens when something goes wrong. It's time to reboot.
true, but I wonder what the public opinion of Transformers right now is. I wonder if the classic ages of Transformers still persists over the Bayisms of the movies.
I don't know, Cole, but
I really wonder that.
I can see people getting swayed if they see a good movie, if it's marketed right, if it's like the complete opposite of everything Michael Bay stood for. I could see people get.
Maybe.
Hey, it's gonna happen with Fantastic Four in a few years, so
Well, Fantastic Four makes more sense. The thing about Transformers is the thing with Transformers to begin with is I don't know exactly what you could do for a live action reboot of Transformers other than setting it on maybe Cybertron. And even then I wouldn't even make that live action. Just make that I keep saying make an animated movie for Pete's sake.
I mean that's the dream, but people.
I mean they could make a ton of cash off of an
Sadly,
anime.
I feel like animated films, apart from Disney or even 2D animated films, have just not been selling lately. The MLP movie that bombed, and that was pretty good looking. I don't know what DreamWorks is doing lately.
Yeah, I have no idea what DreamWorks is doing, but I don't know, Joe, what you would do with a live action Transformers after Day to win the hearts of the people. I don't know what
And he
exactly
did win the hearts of the people, folks. Even if you don't like it, he won the hearts.
Yeah, he won the hearts for a little bit. Then Age of Extinction happened and people started to lose interest. But neither here.
I don't know. Maybe you just go with a more cartoony live action thing. I don't know.
I don't. But the thing is, if you do that, I highly doubt that sells.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, Joel. The American audience is not the biggest connoisseur when it comes to animation. When you and I can sit here and love the animated shows, Disney for all the quality.
If it is, unless it is Disney and Pixar, I feel like they're not the biggest connoisseur. And every now and then DreamWorks. Although, I don't know. I know Kung Fu didn't like the How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda not make their money back.
I think How to Train Your Dragon did, if I'm correct. I don't know how much.
You saw How to Train Your Dragon, by the way, did you? You've seen those.
Yes,
films.
I've seen both.
Good, those are great.
Yeah, I love those movies.
Yeah, animation in America has just never been.
I mean, it hasn't taken off as opposed to somewhere like Japan. And I think part of the thing with Japan too is the style has really helped anime really stick around for a while.
You know what's funny, actually? I read somewhere or maybe I heard this on a podcast, that Disney Animation is actually one of the great influencers of anime.
That wouldn't surprise me, especially some of the.
And I'm not talking about today Disney. I'm talking about Walt Disney.
No, yeah, I get that. I can imagine that, especially with some of the Studio Ghibli films. I can see a lot of inspiration being taken from Disney in that day and age.
I really feel like every time animation has a chance to go beyond, it always fails. Like, do you know anything about the history of Not Phantasmic, Fantasia. Fantasmic's a great Disney show at Disneyland.
Didn't Fantasia? One of the Fantasia movies really bombed?
The first one.
Yeah.
Yes, that bombed. Well, that was because of World War II, sadly. So they didn't get the European markets, but like that was a big experiment with animation that failed financially. Fantasia's a gorgeous movie, but it like you've seen Fantasia, right, Cole?
I've seen bits and pieces.
You need to watch that movie because like that movie for 40s film was pushing boundaries. There's some stuff in the Night of Bald Mountain sequence that looked like it could be computer animated, but it's not. It's all hands on. And that film was really pushing what an animated film could be. Another one, I guess, would be Batman Mask of the Phantasm. That could have pushed boundaries, but Warner Bros. Did not market that movie, even though they put it in theaters. That's a really good animated film.
And and speaking on your point of making Transformers more cartoony, Joel, the only time I have ever known somebody like that to ever, in any shape or form, succeed is Mary Poppins.
Yeah, live action meets animation. Well, no, Frank Roger Rabbit was successful.
Yeah. But I think the one, if you ask people mostly that, they would say Mary Poppins would be the one that would pop in their head.
Yeah, no, Roger Rabbit would too, and maybe Space Jam.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't care what people say. Space Jam is awesome, and the Looney Tunes back in action film.
But the other thing too, Joel, that we have to consider is, where is the 2D, other than maybe on TV, where are the 2D animated movies nowadays? All we see now is 3D animation. Like, what was the last?
That's really.
I mean, aside from Japan, in America, where are the 2D animated movies?
I guess the last one would be the My Little Pony movie, and that's technically Flash animation, but I think they used 2D, and that bombed financially. It looks gorgeous though, if you've ever seen it, and it looks gorgeous animation wise. And that's really it. 2D animation is kind of dead in America.
Yeah.
Except on TV.
Which is sad because there's a real art to it.
Oh, I love 2D animation. I think
that has really become forgotten a lot of days. That anime is really the only thing that's really keeping that alive.
And even then, they're trying to go with that weird 3D stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them are. I think a lot of them are still sticking to their guns, I hope.
Yeah.
I don't know what the state of anime is these days.
I don't know.
That movie a while back that came out. I know Nathan Snyder, hi Nathan, if you're listening, saw it. What's it called? It was really good, he said.
Probably a Studio Ghibli film.
No, it wasn't a Studio Ghibli. I think it was. It's like a school thing. I don't remember.
I have no idea.
It's not on his Facebook a while back. Nathan, if you're listening in the comments, tell me in the comments if you're listening, or anybody else who's listening for that matter. But yeah. And 3D, and I've seen some 2D shows on TV that when they put in their effort, they can really push some boundaries.
Yeah.
Like the last few episodes of Gravity Falls, some of the later My Little Pony episodes.
Certain Danny Phantom episodes can have, like the one that pops into my mind, Rainstorm, the one where he fights the former king of the Ghost Zone. There's some really interesting 2D animation that's used in that show, especially the wide shots of that ghost army. It's just breathtaking in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's sad. It's a shame that kid animated TV shows are sort of falling through as well. I feel.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of networks these days are pushing more towards live action shows.
Yeah, Disney strangely has some or cheap cartoons.
Yeah.
Like Disney right now, I feel, even though their broadcasting schedules stink, they've had some of the best cartoons.
Yeah.
I feel DuckTales, Gravity Falls, Star vs. the Forces of Evil. even Star Wars Rebels, which isn't consistently good, but when it gets good, ooh, it's really good, and the animation can be really beautiful, especially for television. Like
Yeah.
when Rebels like hits a note like really well, ooh, that's some good stuff. Now it
Do
doesn't
you
know.
think? Do you think the push for a live action show might be maybe influenced by a series like Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and stuff like that?
Probably those are the big probably, but all the live action stuff Nickelodeon puts out is cheap and really silly.
Yeah, a
Henry
lot of
Danger, that Night Squad thing that just started.
yeah. Nickelodeon hasn't had the best track record recently,
Disney Channel has
especially
weird
because
stuff too.
Butch Hartman just left not too long ago.
Yeah, did you watch it? I heard
Yes,
about
I
that.
did.
I didn't see that, but yeah.
It sucks because Butch Hartman was great and was one of the reasons Fairly Odd Parents and shows like Danny Phantom really succeeded. He was a really brilliant guy, and now he left Nickelodeon.
Yeah, that it really stink. But yeah, animation just like me and Doc Holocron actually have been thinking of doing a discussion like TV broadcasting for his channel. Uh, Later down the line. So this is definitely something to think about. Just the downfall of animated cartoons.
Yeah,
Although there's no good Looney Tunes anymore. Like, remember the Looney Tunes show?
yeah.
That was
Or
good.
all those kinds of shows like Tom and Jerry, all those types of shows. We're kind of out of that era. Sorry.
It's weird because I feel like 2010 was like the start of a really good push of animated TV shows.
Yeah.
Venture Time. I always want to say Gravity Falls came in 2010, but I could be wrong. Um, I don't think started either, but I know that was like 2010 to I don't know. What do you want to say, Cole? That's
Maybe
2015 was
maybe
like
2014, 2015.
maybe like that was like a lot of great shows started that year.
Because of course we had Avatar for a while, then we had Korra.
Well,
And
Avatar was before the big 2010 renaissance of
sorry,
anime.
but also keep in mind, Joel, we had Korra.
When did Korra start?
I forget. Let me check. Let me look that up real quick. What year did?
Korra got the short end of the stick too.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
that
don't.
was their
I mean,
darling show. Nickelodeon's. Well, Nickelodeon always screwed over Korra, sadly.
yeah. Let me check out. Come on, internet, work with me here. It came out. Yep, 2012.
Yeah, 2012, Korra came out, and a lot of great animated shows. And regardless of how you feel of writing, the animation was always beautiful.
Yes, especially for Korra, and it was especially after how Avatar: The Last Airbender ended, especially with the season finale. Regardless of your feelings toward it, the animation for that finale, is breathtaking, and I think no one can argue that.
Oh yeah, Avatar pushed boundaries, I think, in terms of what animated series can be.
That and Korra were probably the last for that kind of series to ever push those kinds of boundaries. I don't know what else Nick did. I forget what
There were
Nick
there
was
were
doing.
attempts, but they always failed. Like Thundercats tried it, that failed. I think the only other one that really hit the ball was Clone Wars, but that's more 3D animation.
Yeah.
But later seasons of Clone Wars, when the animation was good, that was like movie worthy. Like that should have been shown in movie theaters.
Well, the thing that stuck out to me the most in Clone Wars is, even though from not the best arc, the Mordos arc is when Anakin has the vision of Vader, and you hear James Earl Taylor shout the line from the "You are my brother, Anakin," and also hear Anakin's actor go, "I hate you." Just hearing that, in my opinion, elevates the third film a lot more. Because I've said this, Joel, I would like to see a Clone Wars retelling of Episode 3.
Well, I would always like to see Matt Lanter do a lot of Anakin's lines because he can
Yes,
deliver them.
I think that
you can deliver them quite. You can deliver them in quite a way that really work. That really is fun. Nothing against Hayden Christensen or anything. He's obviously Matt Lanter taking a lot of what Hayden did, but I'm sure. But Matt Lanter could say some cool lines,
yeah.
Anakin lines in a way.
And the
Uh,
voice acting in Clone Wars was pretty on point too. That's the other thing. The voice acting, for the most part, for all these shows has been pretty much on point. Also, Joel, another thing I'd like to point out.
I've never had a problem with even the cheapo cartoons voice acting. Even Teen
Neither have
Titans
I.
Go is pretty spot on voice acting.
Yeah, but also, Joel, I want to point this out because I don't feel like a lot of people really talk about this. Another thing to consider is we now have companies on YouTube
Yeah.
that are producing shows, that are producing animated shows that in some ways surpass quality of some TV shows
Would
nowadays.
you like to? I don't watch a lot of those things. So would you like to give some
Uh,
examples?
for the biggest example I can think of would be Ruby from Rooster Teeth.
Oh yeah, that thing I always see everywhere. Yet no know what it is.
Yes, that is
RWBY.
which is called Ruby.
Right.
And that's a show, and I remember watching that show before it was even a big thing. I remember watching it before the first volume even started and watching the trailers for that show unfold and seeing people slowly come on to it more and more. And now Ruby, a kind of, what started as kind of the almost amateur-like story, kind of evolved and got people like Vic Mignogna and people like Travis Willingham, Laura Bailey, Aaron Dismuke, big Funimation actors onto this show just through its popularity. I mean, that show grew beyond, I think, what anybody thought it would have become.
Are there any examples of this for 2D animation?
Probably.
I've seen some good 3D animated people like really take their time and make some cool stuff. I saw one
Yeah.
with Doctor Who. There's some short stuff. It's not like a full on 30 minutes.
I want to say I feel like there are 2D shows on YouTube, but I can't think of them.
Yeah. I don't know if it's big enough yet to affect anything though.
Yeah, but I think we're seeing a point where things like YouTube are going to start challenging how TV shows run their business to certain degrees. Because if I can go and get quality shows online for free, then I can paying for certain TV. Then you're kind of in a pickle right now, especially for all these rising companies.
Yeah, and also, well, people I do know people have made careers and start working for official things via YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
there was one guy from Clone Wars who worked on a fan film back in the early 2000s. A while back, I saw that Nick Briggs, a Big Finish, contacted this one Doctor Who fan guy on his comment section, offering him maybe a chance to collaborate or something, join the official crew. So people can easily make their careers through this
Yeah.
stuff. That's definitely something to think about. And I hope it changes for the better. I hope one day Disney goes back to making 2D animated films.
I hope so too. Disney's been kind of in Disney's become mainstream, to which some would say maybe is not the most.
Disney owns the world. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, Disney owns the world, but they kind of have it. They're in some cases they have it easy for themselves. I don't think. When was the last movie they made that really, really bombed, Joel? What was the last one that?
I mean, Princess and the Frog, I guess.
But how many years ago was that?
That was like 10 years ago, 2008. Yeah.
Since then, what was their last big bomb?
I mean, Pixar had a few bombs. I know dinosaur movies
Yeah.
done well. I know some of the Cars 3, Pirates. And they had a few bombs, Cole.
But then we have big moneymakers like Frozen. We have Zootopia.
I think that's the thing, Cole, is even if these films bomb,
Yeah,
they aren't like gonna kill it.
and that's the thing too. They can afford to throw out bombs and not have to really. They are not stressing themselves to reinvent the genre because they don't need to.
They have enough slices of pie to like, okay, if this one sucks, think we can get another slice. Like
True.
they're like, if one thing falls, we still got like 3 other companies to prop us up.
exactly.
I'm
And
so
plus,
still. Oh, sorry. You can finish.
let's not forget, Joel. Disney owns Marvel Studios, and
Yeah,
of course,
and
that's
Star Wars
yep.
and
So they
and
own.
Fox,
Well, not yet, but they will. But
and then
they
officially yet.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But they own two of the biggest money makers right now.
I'm surprised they haven't gotten into gaming.
I keep saying that, Joel. I am still surprised to this day that they have not made a bigger commitment toward games. Because if they did that, they would be sitting pretty on some really, really big money.
Well, what company would they buy? Because if there's one like Disney doesn't go into like Disney pretty much takes the company that's working and just owns it. Like with Marvel, it's sort of like this is why I don't think they're ever gonna buy DC because DC movies are not worth their time. Sorry. Well, at least not now.
Well,
What I mean by that,
before we get, I want to clarify something, Joel.
DC Comics are really worth it from what I've been hearing.
DC, the characters of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all those characters have become icons and were icons for their time and are still icons to this day.
Wouldn't Disney want to own an icon? Wouldn't Disney want to own an icon?
Well, Disney has icons, Joel.
They'll get even more icons. Get all the icons. Get the entire IP under their control. That's how it works.
But right now, I think.
Well, here's my theory, Cole. It's why they bought Marvel. Because they bought Marvel when Marvel was still in the midst of Phase 1, right?
Yeah.
Well, because they bought Marvel because Marvel was working. They had established their universe. They were making it pretty big. DC hadn't done anything since Dark Knight Rises. So it's like, Disney's like, hey, this company's making money here. Let's buy it, own it, and reap the rewards ourselves. Ching! Mm-hmm. When they sold it to Star Wars, it's like, what's the biggest Americana thing in the world? Star Wars. Let's buy it. Ka-ching!
Yeah, they really don't. DC, as much as I love characters like Batman and really appreciate characters like Superman, they have not had the best track record for the past few years, especially in regards to
their movies. Their comics
in terms of movies. Now, their comics are coming back and starting to come back into the forefront of things. They're starting to get their shit together there.
I think they already have. I think it's been 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty good on that front. It's their movies that's why I don't think Disney's going to buy it. Because, like, we have a comic book company already. You guys won't make us the bajillions.
The other thing too, and this may be an interesting time, if Disney did buy DC, I think we could almost start to see some of that superhero fatigue come a little sooner.
Well, I think there's also monopoly laws and other questionable things.
But back on what
my point on the games was, what company would they buy? Like, would they buy EA because they're the biggest, or would they buy or who's the most successful right now? Who is the Disney of games?
If they were gonna go for the family friendly route, they would make an attempt to go after Nintendo. The problem is Nintendo themselves. I don't know if they even work with Disney and what their relationship with Disney even is, if there even is one. Because
they don't have to go necessarily because it's cutesy. I mean, Star Wars doesn't get.
Well, I know that, but the ones that's going to be the most user friendly, the ones that's going to be used by everyone, some people that they can attract everyone to. There's something for everyone in a Nintendo, as much as some people may not like to admit it. There's something for everyone there.
I love my Mario Party.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, Mario at Disneyland. That would make lots of sense.
But we also have to keep in mind, game creators, especially people like Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, is very protective of that property. A lot of companies probably don't want to be under that kind of corporation. I could be wrong. And also, Joel, this might be a good time to think. I don't know what Disney's history in terms of game development even has been.
Not that much, sadly. I know a bit or two. The gaming industry for Disney, there were some Disney. They have a game company, Disney Interactive, but they don't do much. I had a few games back in the day. There's like little preschool things.
Kingdom Hearts 2 was partially through Disney Interactive.
I think all Disney Kingdom Hearts games are to a certain extent because they have Disney characters. But that's more Square Enix's wheelhouse. They just let the company do what they want for the most part. Uh,
But
but yeah, they don't do much with games.
so in terms of Disney does not have the most successful track record with these types of games. They tried Epic Mickey and that failed miserably.
That game looks so good though.
It did look good, but as far as I remember, it bombed.
Yeah,
So
and I thought that would be a game changer because it looked like they were putting effort into that
I
game.
thought so too. But
Um,
the thing is, the other thing we have to consider, Joel, when it comes to game development, a lot of games are owned by separate companies, separate publishers. Too many for Disney to try to rack in, and if for Disney to outright buy a company, they, especially for certain IPs, there would probably have to be enough IPs for them to even consider that.
I think. I think. I think you might be right about the Nintendo thing because that's like the most famous IPs are like Zelda, Mario. Because you gotta realize, Cole, Disney going back all the way to Walt, has always been about consolidating and getting all the IPs under one house,
Yes.
the Disney house, and that's what they've been doing even today. Like Star Wars is one of the biggest IPs in the universe, at least in America. Let's own it. Marvel right now is becoming one of the biggest IPs because of their characters. We gotta own it. I'm surprised they didn't do anything with DC, but I guess I'm actually I'm not surprised because yeah, but I don't know if they can buy that all. My mom mentioning Lego and Harry Potter. Well, Harry Potter's run by Warner Brothers right now.
Yes.
It is kind of strange that they didn't choose decency over. No, I think they might. I think it makes sense because Marvel was already becoming big and sort of the Disney of superheroes. So they want to own the Disney version of something. Like Star
Yeah.
Wars is the Disney version of science fiction slash fantasy. Marvel is the Disney of superheroes, I guess, in a way now because of their big studio. So it makes sense. So I guess
Yeah.
Nintendo would be the Disney of gaming.
That would probably be, if they were going to pick something, that would seem to be the thing they would try to pick. Because for any of you who do not know, Nintendo is one of the OG game companies. A lot of the big original IPs of gaming come from Nintendo. Final Fantasy, Zelda, Mario, Metroid,
Cloud
all
meet
those
and
games.
greet in Disneyland. Come on,
Yeah.
this fall. Yes, I would want that.
All those games under the roof of Nintendo. And Nintendo has been, for the longest time, very, very protective of those IPs. That's part of the reason they don't come to other systems.
Is it just like has Nintendo been owned by one guy forever, or?
No, I think it's been owned by a number of people. Miyamoto, who is the creator of Mario and a couple of other things, probably a bunch of other things, was one of their big names until he retired a couple of years ago. He was their brainchild and probably is the most renowned game developer of our time and of all time. Probably he is probably the largest game developer.
Well, it's also funny now because Nintendo's making a land in one of the Universal Studios parks.
Yep.
I want to say it's the one in Florida or in Japan, but I can't remember. Could be even here.
I should also like to point out too, Joel, that would probably be the safest bet because right now Nintendo really isn't competing with your Xbox Ones or your PS4s in terms of sheer money. Because for any of you who do not know, when Nintendo released the Wii, it was somewhat successful. Then they released the Wii U, which had, from what I'm understanding, had some good concepts, had some interesting mechanics to it. The issue is no one wanted to develop for it, so they took it out of development, and it had a really short lifespan, and it was a flop for them in a lot of ways. So right now, the Switch is they're pulled to try to continue keeping up with that kind of market, and as far as I know, they're starting off really well with the Switch.
That's good. I got a question, Cole. Let's say, how would you actually feel if, like, we woke up one day in the internet and saw Disney buys Nintendo? How would you feel? Like, what would your first gut reaction be to this?
That would be my reaction.
My reaction would be, so how does this affect the Kingdom Hearts games?
It doesn't.
Good. That's all that matters.
It doesn't.
Good. I mean, Disney did buy a Nintendo. I can't see them
If
changing things too much.
If Disney did buy Nintendo, that would be a way for Disney to really be throwing themselves under the bus, because Nintendo fans are very, very passionate about those IPs and their franchises. So if Disney did anything questionable to those, the internet and everybody would be the first to speak out, especially in terms of Nintendo.
It could be worse. It could be buying Sonic.
Actually, no, Sonic Genesis, Sega.
Yeah, by Sega. Try to make a good Sonic game.
Speaking of, I don't even know what Sega's doing nowadays.
I don't know. I don't know much about the gaming outside of just the brands.
Joel, actually, speaking of which, I want to talk about something, okay?
Okay.
Speaking of gaming, we're going to talk about something else here in a little bit, but there's something I want to bring up. There's been something on the news recently regarding a certain Konami game called Metal Gear Survival.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that means to you, probably not much.
No, it does not.
But there's been some controversy regarding it because it has been using our good friend, ye old system of microtransactions, Joel.
Microtransactions, my old
And this
friend.
probably has one of the most kind of insulting microtransactions usage of it.
Ooh, this sounds fun. I'm liking the story already.
Not only is this more of a single-player-based game with microtransactions, you have to purchase separate save slots.
What now?
You have to purchase separate save slots.
You have to purchase saving your game.
Yes, you can only save it once on one character. You want to save it on another? Can't do that. Gotta buy it.
Wow.
So naturally, and this game has been getting shit on constantly, so I don't even feel remotely the need to continue it. But Joel, answer me this. Especially with EA, with Konami, especially after Kojima left, I'm not sure I like where gaming's going these days.
I don't think anyone does.
In terms of microtransactions, and hell, there's been people talking about the law regarding that. The ERS,
Hawaii, is trying to ban them.
All these kinds of things, talking about the ethical conclusions, how do we let this kind of thing continue, or is it right to even let it continue?
It shouldn't be right to save your freaking game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think I can understand that. In a way, Cole, I'm going to say this. I'm kind of glad that, if anything, I'm going to be Mr. Positive for a second. Try to shed some light in the darkness. I'm kind of happy that Battlefront 2 might have been the sacrificial lamb to wake people up to this.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like if any other franchise was going to do... Ooh, sorry, Lions on TV. But, I feel like, any other franchise from Call of Duty to this one, I'm going to say nobody would have cared, except for gamers. Gamers would have cared. Everyone else would have just said, I don't care. I don't play games.
It would have taken something like Nintendo, like a Mario Party type thing, to make more gamers step up. But
Maybe,
for Star Wars, you pull people a little too far in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars is like one of the few franchises where casual people who don't game will play.
Yes.
Even if it's for a day. And the fact they did that, and casual people, they hit the casual people, or just the people who don't know. That brought up a lot of awareness.
That's the other thing. You got the fucking public involved.
And that's a good thing, thankfully.
Yes. So I don't know what EA was thinking in terms of that. It bit them in the ass, clearly, especially for losing $1 billion in stock over that whole deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was not a good day for them when that happened.
That was not good at all.
But imagine we get to the day, Joel, where games like Kingdom Hearts have microtransactions to even go to some of the worlds you've always wanted to visit. Imagine going to a Star Wars world in Kingdom Hearts, but you gotta pay some money for that.
Oh, I feel like if, especially for Star Wars world, I feel like people would. I feel that would cause another riot.
Yeah.
I don't know, Cole. I feel like this will require lots of public pressure.
Yeah. I don't know where this goes, and I'm really curious to see, especially with all the talks of net neutrality and people really stepping up and really, really delving and discussing this. I think we're going to see some of the talk around games shift around in a few years, and we're going to see some changes in the publisher conscious.
Could you see the rise of independent studios?
There already are independent studios, Joel. There are indie studios all over. That's how No Man's Sky was a thing. That was from an indie studio.
Yeah, but I mean, they get more business because nobody wants to buy it from the big companies.
Maybe with systems like Steam. I mean, you use Steam, so you know a bit about it. With things like Steam, it's possible. It would take a couple of big games getting more light than others. It would probably be a dark era for AAA games that would cause this.
Probably because like the lower. Actually, I quite enjoy some of the lower games. To be quite honest, even more so than AAA games.
Yeah, like a game like Minecraft, even though that kind of has become AAA, kind of, but not really. 7 Days to Die. Joel and I played a game called Chivalry. That's really good.
I could see that. I don't know, Cole. What do you predict?
We're already seeing talk about this now. I don't know what it's going to take, especially with how Congress works and how people have been talking recently.
And Trump.
Yeah, I don't.
Like he's all about making the money.
The fun thing, Joel. Apparently, Trump is talking with game publishers or whatever about the whole.
Well, you can't trust what Trump's.
And I'm like, okay.
We're gonna talk with these game publishers. They're great people. They're very good. They're making the microtransactions.
Yeah, if EA's smart, they'll pay him to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, that's how you rally people. It's like, EA, they're my favorite company. Their microtransactions are amazing. Battlefront 2 is amazing because I have to pay microtransactions.
If EA was smart, they would try to do that.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Lucasfilm would have a heart attack at that.
Though I will say it is funny, Joel, that Trump is recorded as saying, there's some violence in video games. You know what? There should be a rating system for games.
We're gonna get so much hate, but this is, I don't care.
I got a good laugh out of that. I'm like, really?
Really? I didn't know there was a rating system.
I mean, I had no idea. Of course there were going to be games I wasn't going to be able to buy when I was like 12. I never do that. I could just walk in, pay some money, and get a game like Call of Duty World at War, or better yet, Dishonored. You know, that's all sunshine and roses. Other than the people's throats getting slit. I mean, yeah, of course I'd be able to get that. Why not? Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Violent video games cause violent crime. Everyone knows that, Cole.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, of course.
I find that funny that he's not talking about that in terms of movies.
Yeah.
I find it kind of funny we haven't gotten there yet.
I'm surprised. It's always video games that get the trashed on, Cole. And comics. Well, I think video games. Well, no, it's always video games I hear.
I find it funny that no one's ever talked about movies just yet. That'd be a good discussion topic. Why is it that video games in that kind of regard get thrown under the bus?
I think it's just because movies have been around longer. Their video games are still relatively newish. I mean,
especially because they haven't been around too long.
They're still in their evolving stages. Movies have kind of already cemented themselves.
Movies have been around since the
early 1900s, if not earlier. if not earlier, because of ye old movies. But sadly, people don't think of video games as art yet.
But maybe they will when you and I talk about this next game that we're going to talk about. So,
yeah, I'll do the introduction, Cole. If you
okay, go ahead.
Alrighty. So yes, we are going to talk about a game, and it's about a story of a farm boy joins up with some pirates to fight an evil empire, save the princess, save the world. Yes, folks, we're talking about the one, the only Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age.
I love how tongue-in-cheek you were about that, Joel.
Yep. And you thought, we're not talking about that other story that about a farm boy, princess, and pirate who stopped an evil empire.
But let's get this out of the way first. Yes, Final Fantasy XII. Well, let me start off by saying Final Fantasy has been inspired by Star Wars in a lot of ways, with some character references, some familiar story points. Star Wars is not unfamiliar to Final Fantasy, so.
But yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, Cole, for a second.
But I'll start off by saying, Joel, when this game initially came out, I believe it was this game probably came out close to 14 years ago originally. Wow. And when this game came out initially, it went over my head in a lot of ways, and from what I'm understanding, it went over a lot of people's heads.
I'm sure it is very political and topical.
It is a game where certain of the other Final Fantasies are more accessible. 12 isn't the most accessible in terms of what is familiar for Final Fantasy fans.
What is familiar for Final Fantasy fans? Let's give some context here.
Well, like I said, if any of you are familiar with typical shonen tropes like the thought of friendship, the thought of doing your best to save everyone, doing your best, all those kinds of things, stuff you would see even in Disney cartoons sometimes, those are more bigger tropes in Final Fantasy, just a little more dramatized. With 12, we see a more darker take, I'd even say to some case, a more mature take on some of the older Star Wars tales to some degree.
I feel like a lot of it's based off early drafts of Star Wars in some regards. Especially how the Empire, their Empire, not the Empire, not Palpatine's Empire, not my Empire.
The Arcadian Empire. We'll call it
the Arcadian Empire is portrayed as a more, not just we have to destroy this empire because it's evil, but more just they just have a bad leader kind of a shtick. It's not even just a bad leader. It's still probably a bad system at the end of the day.
It's a bad system, but more so, it's a corrupt system. It's more.
Well, it's empire. All empires are corrupt.
No matter how you talk if only Ian was watching this. Ian, if you were in the comments, please do your rant on imperialism just to enlighten people about that. If you're ever on this, we'll get you to do it. But yeah, even so, it's not
the overt evilness of like Star Wars, where Palpatine is like where every Imperial officer is like twirling their mustache. You got Hux screaming and shouting about this, wanting to exterminate everybody, or Palpatine just sitting on a throne going, "Good."
And the good thing about this game, Joel, is we get our eyes into the Arcadian infrastructure, especially with characters like Abranth and Larsa. We get ideas of characters who aren't overly evil. They're just trying to make the best of the system and trying to, in a roundabout way, try to do what's best for everyone, just with the system at hand.
They're not revolutionaries, people. Let's put it that way.
Now, Vayne is a revolutionary, and we'll talk about him a lot more
in the worst ways possible.
Yes, but especially Vayne is a very interesting topic because there's some interesting stuff to dissect from him, and I should find it interesting, Joel, that he is one of the few villains that doesn't really interact with the main party until later on in the game. He's very much more of a symbol more than he is.
Might be a little Xehanort in that sense, then.
Yes. Sort of, but less manipulative in some. Some manipulative.
Even in Star Wars, Palpatine never interacts with like Luke until like the end.
Yeah.
Consider him like the overarching villain. But yeah, I guess I'll give my thoughts on this game since you gave yours. You have any more to say?
You go ahead. We'll say more as we go.
So I guess Cole, you introduced me to this a couple months ago. I don't know how long it's been since we finished. Um, and I got really into it. More so than I think you did show me the first time. I don't know what clicked with me, but just something clicked. Probably because it did remind me of Star Wars. I really like the aesthetic and the world.
Yeah.
I have to say, I like this. I still like this game even more than 9. We're playing that right now. I like.
Well,
9.
we're playing 10 right now.
Oh,
9's
10.
the one we tried to act out.
Oh, that's right. We're playing 10. We're playing 10 right now. I like that. I like 12 more than 10. I like 10 is fine. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I really like the characters. Balthier, of course, being my favorite. He's a leading man after all. And I just got really into like some of the ideas being presented and just the ideas of like man controlling their history and destiny. I thought that was very interesting. Yeah. Again, I like the world. I like just the politics of it. It's very classical Star Wars. I don't want to say classical Star Wars. That's not making sense. Very classical fantasy in a way. Where I feel like Star Wars tried to be a little bit more everyman. This is a bit more into the lineage and bloodlines thing, which I'm not a bigger fan of. But it's Japan, I guess.
Well, it isn't even also more so about bloodlines so much as it is about.
Well, the princess is all about the character. Of the princess is all about.
True, but then you have characters like Vaughn, and then you have Bane, who's the entire antithesis to that in a lot of ways.
That's true. He's bloodline gone wrong. He's everything wrong with bloodlines, people. Like the Roman Emperor's sons.
Yes. He's the Arcadian Empire is very much modeled after the Roman Empire in a lot of ways.
Yo, definitely. Like there's classic Roman Empire to a T. I like the mystical side of things.
And this is coming from a person who is not the biggest believer in terms of religion and all that. And this game really has an interesting stance on
spiritual fantasy stuff. I don't want to get into it. Crossing some lines here.
Yeah.
I like fantasy stuff. I like magic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I actually really love magic and fantasy. Even more so than science fiction in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Same here.
And I just really like this game. I like the story more than the gameplay because I watched you play it. So
yeah. I would be interested to see you play through it sometimes and just see that experience unfold.
Oh, I probably stink. It's like one of those games you gotta think and like.
Well, not really. As long as you have an understanding, you can usually find your way through it. There are some that are a lot more difficult, but that's a different story.
But yeah, where do we start, Cole? You start us off. Let's talk about the topic.
This game is not the most accessible. Especially, this game starts off on a really interesting note. It starts you off into the history of the kingdom of Dalmasca is on its last leg, getting ready to be taken over by Arcadia in its last ditch effort to stay independent from the empire itself in terms of Arcadia's western march over to Rosaria. So you see just everything failing around them.
I like it because it's very symbolic of small countries that always seem to be screwed over by big empires. It's like the Cold War.
Yeah.
Or it's like, when two big powers are always fighting. It's always the little kingdoms that always get the short end of the stick.
And then we also have Nabudis, which is kind of reminiscent of Japan and the atomic bomb in a lot of ways because the midlight char being used on House Nabradia, destroying Nabudis entirely.
Yep, I remember that. That was sad. Oh, and of course, what's that? I forgot. What's the material everyone's looking for?
Necessite.
Necessites are like, don't mess with the supernatural stuff. You don't understand, people. It never works out.
Yeah. And I think that is all summed up with Dr. Sid, this Final Fantasy's version of Sid.
Not my Sid. Hashtag not my Sid.
But he is very much the person. His tagline is almost a tagline for the enemy in this game, which is putting the reins of history back in the hands of man. I think he's an interesting character. He and Bane are interesting characters, him especially, because he's just a guy he wants to see this all play out, but he wants to get man just a chance to write history
And the
themselves.
weird thing is, Cole, you kind of understand.
Yeah,
I'm like someone like I don't want the big old force telling me what to do. I make my own choices. Dang it.
yeah, exactly.
Obviously he's making horrible, immoral choices, but still.
Especially, and his version is flawed. Like you say, give it back to man, but you're saying the capable man, which is people like Vane. So you're not really giving it back to man yourself because it's still falling under that same kind of structure, kind of.
It's the populist message, but of we're gonna take away the money from the rich and give it back to only us because we're better.
Yeah,
This one group of other people who are all horrid.
yeah.
It's not the communist way. But yeah, it's sort of like that message of it's a good message, but it's being used and abused.
Especially in terms of Vane, because I think that the discussion he has with his father right before Vane kills his father, where he says, House Salador must live on. He said, are you doing this for bloodthirst? He says, I'm doing this for necessity because this must be done.
Yeah, Vane is he's not all up. He's a very.
But he's an extremist. That's what he is.
Yes.
But I also find it interesting. He makes it a point where he said you would spare Larsa's hands of that blood, and Vane says my hands are already stained with blood. Better for me to wield the staff of the ruler.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I find that very interesting. Like he wants to spare his brother that kind of torture.
I'm sure. I wonder if he would have turned on him eventually.
Maybe because I think at a point Larsa would have probably resembled an alibi, or probably there would have been a time where Larsa stepped out of boundaries and Vane would have had to kill him just like he did his other two brothers.
Yeah. Vane, he's an interesting villain.
Yeah.
He starts off all charming as consul of Dalmasca.
Yeah, he starts off in a very interesting way where he starts off. We see him going down this parade, this very big, grandiose parade, and we see him on the steps of the palace. The Imperials are introducing him, and then he goes up and basically says, I get y'all hate me. I get that. I have no inquiries of frustrating that. I am simply here to be a citizen of Dalmasca and help it continue to be what it is, the Kingdom of Dalmasca.
Yeah, and it's like, ooh, dang it, well, it'd be so nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're clever. You're clever.
He's clever. I can give him that.
But yeah, he goes about his ideals in the wrong way.
Yeah, that's the same case for all the villains in this game. A lot of these villains don't think they're the villains, except maybe Vane. I think Vane thinks himself as the villain.
I don't think he does. I think he thinks he just...
Well, bear in mind, Joel, at the end where he's talking to Vana, he's basically talking to God, basically saying, I am no Dynast king. I have failed you. I am not fit to rule this land. And Vana said, you have already fulfilled all my expectations, and I will not let you walk death alone.
Vana is an interesting character if you want to shift gears to him. Or her.
But I should also, both Vana and Vane, someone said it best. I think Vana and Vane go into that final battle expecting to die. They represent the symbol of God still looming over humanity, and they must be overcome for humanity to continue moving forward.
Ooh, who said that?
Dude, guess as good as mine, Joel. I just remember reading that somewhere.
That's interesting. Yeah, because they do get defeated by every people.
Yeah, they get defeated by the common man.
Which represents in Vaughn.
Yeah, Vaughn especially when Vaughn impales him with Gabrant's sword.
Yeah. The princess barely does anything at the end.
Sadly, except for the line where Vane asks, "Who are you?" Harbinger of revenge, and she says, "I'm simply myself, nothing more, nothing less."
definitely. I guess we can shift gears now to the princess because Vanon doesn't really do much. She's just sort of the catalyst for all this.
Yeah, but I was more the catalyst and more just he is the MacGuffin, if you will, for the big change to happen. The Akuria represent what man was before and what the Akuria still hope man will be.
Right.
And of course, that's what Princess Ash, has to struggle with. What is it that her duty tells her to do? What is it that she needs to do for her kingdom? Is she doing it for herself, or is she doing it for the good of Dalmasca?
Or revenge, yeah.
Yes.
Is she doing struggle?
Yeah. She's very much the person who had everything taken away from her. Her identity, her father, her home. She had everything taken from her. So in a way, you can almost see her wanting revenge, but you're like, but you also see it kind of through other people's eyes. You're like, if you take revenge against them, are we really any better than they ever were?
Do you think that she makes her she can be forgiven for the whole bloodline thing because she does everything of her own accord at the end? It's her character that's more important.
Considering the stone, the dusk, the dawn shard, the dust shard, the midlight shard all represent her bloodline. Her choosing not to take up the stone, I think, represents that entirely. Of her abandoning her bloodline to make a new name for her kingdom, to make the name that her kingdom once had, because she says our kingdom never once relied on the Dawn Shard in all its years.
I've just been thinking about bloodlines because Star Wars has been pretty big and anti-big on that lately.
Yeah.
So I'm just making comparisons because like I said, this is very Star Warsy.
But it's also important to say that bloodlines are a big part of this game because the three major characters, Ash, Vaughn, and Balthier, all are struggling with their bloodline to some degree. Ash is struggling with her kingdom, her
family,
husband,
I guess, and
husband. Well, yeah, all of them they're all three of them for their family. Mm-hmm. Ash for her kingdom, father, and husband. Balthier for his father and his homeland, and Vaughn for his brother.
Vaughn I can forgive because he's just a captain of the guard. Like, you're not that special.
But it's still, but even so,
Fran's dealing with her stuff.
Yeah, but we should make a point. Vaughn is the character. He is very much affected by this because the stain being put on Dalmasca because of what Gabranth made it seem like Bosch did. Rex was the catalyst to that. Rex is the reason that was at any point the case. Rex is the poor person who told everyone Bosch killed the king.
They're all strangely connected by this one dude who screwed everything up.
Yeah, with Vane and Gabranth. We'll talk about Gabranth in a minute because we'll talk about him and Bosch last because I think they're the two most interesting to talk about.
Right, and like we were saying earlier, Vane is the bloodline gone wrong.
Yes.
He shouldn't make somebody special just because they're related to somebody.
Yes. He is for pure bloodline because he thinks that's the right way. Ash is the one who's struggling to think about that.
They're it's polar opposite. And Vane's just a very terrible person. So it's this is why you don't give your emperorships to the son just because they got raised, because they could still be crazy.
Well, Vane didn't just get the emperor. He took it from Gramus. He killed Gramus.
Yeah, and thankfully Larsa was not a nut, but
yeah. Vaughn is kind of the character I was most kind of unenamored with.
Yeah, I remember you struggled with him a little bit.
But the more I've played the game, the more I've come to think about it a bit more. The more I've come to accept his presence, where he is the everyman's eye. He's not.
I guess kind of Vaughn reminded me of now that I think about it. Not in terms of personality, but in terms of the role.
Yeah.
A little bit like Jyn Erso from Rogue One.
Yeah.
It's the passive hero versus the active hero, and I remember watching a video about this. Characters like Jyn and Vaughn are passive. I think that's what
Yeah.
passive heroes, and that does not mean they're bad characters for anybody who's out
Right.
there listening. I like Jin, and I like Jin and like Vaughn, but they're the kind of heroes where stuff happens around them and they kind of interact with it. It's like Jin didn't go out seeking the rebels. The rebels came to her because they need her for something.
Yeah.
Vaughn, same with Vaughn. He kind
He
of
was doing. He kind of falls into this world which he never thought he would ever be in.
right, and then you have I guess Luke. No, Luke is somewhat of a mix between the passive and the active
Yeah.
hero.
I would say Luke is the active here, especially by Empire.
Yeah, Ray is another example of active hero because she gets BB. Ray, they're like the active heroes for those who don't know. They're the ones who like make the big decisions. They're like
If we're talking about active hero, Ash is the active hero.
and Balthier to a certain extent.
Voltaire to a certain extent. I would put, if we're talking about the thing, this is the one flaw I can give 12 at, right, is between Vaughn, Balthier, and Ash, it's a
Actually,
little
now
hard.
I think about it, Cole, this game kind of reminds me of Rogue One in a little lots of.
Yeah.
I gotta show you Rogue One now, just because maybe if you think about it, like Final Fantasy 12, you might like it more.
Maybe.
Anyway, sorry.
But the three of them, they kind of shift all three of them to different roles and are more relevant at different points of the game. So you're not really sure who the main protagonist really is supposed to be until the end, kind of. And even then, it's still a little shaky.
Okay, Rogue One's different because Jin is the star through the whole thing.
Yes.
Um,
Here, it's a little hard to make out. I think it's supposed to be Vaughn.
because you could always make the argument it's Ash,
Yes.
and then you can make the argument again it's Balthier.
But then you could also make the argument it's Vaughn in a lot of cases. I think a lot of it depends on your interpretation of the game as a whole.
I also think it's problematic. Well, not problematic. I don't want to say it's problematic. It's hard to interpret because, like, I'm going to just use Star Wars, okay? Because this is let's face it, that's what this is. Because in Star Wars, at the end of A New Hope, Luke is the one who blows up the Death Star. You know, I mean, he has help, and Han shows up last minute and all this stuff. It's a team effort, but at the end of the day, Luke is the one who does it. The story focuses on him. Same with Jin. Even though it's a group effort, like it's sort of like she gets like the last big hurrah.
Yeah.
Here, no one really there is no center focus. Like Vaughn isn't doing something that's saving the day. Ash isn't really doing something that's saving the day. Balthier does something that saves the day near the end.
But the thing that makes that hard is, has the game ever been truly about him? Has it ever been his story? And that's where it becomes hard to discern whose story it is. I honestly don't know, Joel. This
Bosch too.
Yeah, Bosch, definitely. The other thing is, with all those four characters, it's hard to really discern who it's about, and I'm not even sure it's the kind of game where you can decide who the main protagonist is, because there are some points where I feel like other characters could be weighing in on the matter, and they never do. And I think that's a developmental issue.
So you're saying that's a writing problem?
Yes.
Okay, I'm about to say, like, have there been movies that ever done this? Like,
probably. There are probably famous cases of this. I've heard of this being a problem in some cases.
Yeah, like it's hard to say if it's intentional or not.
Yeah, and I can say it probably is just based on what I know about the development. For any of you who don't know, this game had a bit of a troubled development cycle, or at least had issues being developed. Originally, Bosch was supposed to be the main character. He was supposed to be the character you stayed with throughout the entire game, and you would see his interactions with Ash and them. But Square Enix was like, no, we don't want an older protagonist. We need a young protagonist because that's what people will latch on to. So they created Vaughn.
I feel like, though, since Bosch comes in so... I don't want to say he comes in late, but it definitely comes in... it's such a long game, I can't even say midway. Early... like, end of the first act, I guess.
Yeah.
Force of the Way, that's a thing small. Force of the Way in. it's kind of hard to argue he's the star.
Especially because he takes on, even at the beginning, a more supportive role.
Didn't he only join like temporarily at first?
Yes, he joins as a guest character.
Right, before he going permanently. And then he grows more and more as you can learn about him. Even Ash, to a certain extent, comes a force of the way in.
Yeah. So this is the biggest issue I can pin on this game is I have a hard time knowing that.
It's hard to know if that's a problem with the story or
just...
What?
I agree. I don't know if that's a problem with the game itself necessarily. I'm honestly not sure.
I mean, most games that I play you always know who the star is.
Yes.
Even in Kingdom Hearts, that franchise, when Riku starts looking like he's getting all the character growth, it's still about Sora.
Yeah, and even about Birth by Sleep, Aqua is the main character because she's the one who ties up all the loose ends. She's the one who makes the push to change everything.
I'll give you even a better example. Even in the sequel trilogy, it's still Ray's story, no matter how interesting you think Kylo is, or if he's the one who needs to get redeemed or saved or killed or repent or whatever you at the end of the day. It's still Ray's story. The story's still about her and how she got roped into this mess. That is the Skywalker saga. So maybe it's a problem.
Maybe I don't know to be honest, because they all three play their roles, but they all three play them at different times, and I have a hard time having a central focus.
Yeah, and I'm so used to having that most movies and games have central focuses. Except for even Call of Duty has a central focus in their story. At least switch around from time to time. It's really hard to say.
It's really hard to say. But beyond that, I guess I feel like we're spinning in circles. Balthier is probably the best character of this game.
Oh, I love Balthier.
Just the way he's written, the way he speaks, the charm in his voice, the way he moves, the way he interacts with the world. Yeah.
Oh man, I love Balthier.
He's like what a classy version of Han Solo would be like.
Yeah, if he had his core accent. British, for anyone who doesn't know what the core is. But yeah, I love, and he even has his own Chewie. He has Fran. I love those two relationships, and I'm sure many a fanfic has been written.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think Balthier becomes even more interesting when you find out that spoilers, by the way. Although I think we've said it already. That Sid is his dad. Yeah,
that Balthier is an Imperial.
Just like Han Solo was for a time.
Yep, he is an Imperial, and he is central to, and that's the other reason I don't know if I can give him that role, because when it comes to him, he almost serves Ash's story more than he even serves his own.
He's more of Ash's supporting character.
Yeah, especially because at the Fawn Coast, when he reveals Dr. Sid's what seems to be his lead to insanity, and Balthier says that's the time when I lost my home. That's also the time when I lost my father. And he says, don't give your heart to a stone. You're too good for that, princess.
Oh, that was a good line. I especially like the end.
Yeah.
When he lets Vaughn borrow his Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, the straw.
Yeah. That was good. I got worried by the end that he would die. Like, oh no, I don't want to.
But it's like you said, the leading man never dies, except the Mass Effect and plenty of other guys.
Yeah. But he's Balthier. He transcends death.
Yeah. Which is interesting because in the next game he gets put into an even more interesting role that maybe if you watch that, we'll talk about that at some point. I have no initial plans to talk about that game, but if you watch it, I'd be willing to talk about it with you, Joel.
Oh, I'd be interested. I like this universe and I want to see it continue.
He's interesting because he's the character, especially, and I find it interesting. I think his character is summed up when the last few words he and his father exchange when he says, was there really no other way? And Dr. Sid says, spend your pity elsewhere. If you are so set on running, hadn't you best be off, fool of a pirate?
Yeah. I would say Do you think Sid takes longer to find his moral high ground than Han Solo did?
Balthier, you mean?
Oh, sorry, said Sid, so I was thinking that. Yeah, Balthier.
Um, I'd say he and Han are about even with each other because I would say over Han Solo, we know little toward the beginning of the game that there's an ulterior motive to Balthier doing this. When he says he's just doing this for his own well-being, there's more to it than that. And Bosch even alludes to this. He says, like, why are you with us? I welcome your help, but why?
Yeah, that's true. I feel like Han Solo is more. We're gonna make so many Star Wars comparisons. Let's just face it. Han Solo is just more. I'm in it for the money. I'm just gonna do this and go home. I think Balthier was always part of the grander scheme of things from the start. Like with Han Solo, it's much more.
He was out to save his own skin. Balthier is almost like, I left my skin, but it's still very much a part of me and a part that affects the world, so I should do something about it.
Pretty much, yeah. Let's see. Talk about Ash. You want to talk about Fran a little bit?
Yeah. She kind of gets forgotten about in the later half, but her character arc with her sisters and the Eriu village, or however the hell you say the village name, and all the Viera, I find that very interesting. It's very. I want to compare it to something, but I don't know what to compare it to.
I don't know. I mean, Fran kind of gets short at the end of the stick, I feel, thinking back at it. Once they are no longer doing the bunny people,
the
Viera, like, she's just there for the ride.
Yeah. And she's very much there to support Balthier.
And just give some spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, she and Pinello get the shortest end of the stick. Thankfully, Pinello in the next game gets a lot more to do with the overall plot.
Notice how it's both the women.
Yeah. Pinello's very much more of a bigger piece in the next game in Revenant Wings.
Thank goodness. And that love story with Pinello and Vaughn never went anywhere.
Yeah, let me tell you, it goes somewhere in the next game. They saved that for the next game.
You better. I
can also say in the next game, Vaughn is very much the main protagonist.
Yeah, that's good. We're talking about a little about Larsa, or maybe the judges.
Yes, let's talk about them, and then we'll talk about Bosch and Gabranth.
Larsa, the Kid Emperor.
Yeah.
that should be a TV series.
I would love to see a miniseries done with Larsa as his time as Emperor. That would be really interesting.
It was a golden age, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Larsa, he's like that kid brother we all wish we had, where you're such a good person. You stand on your own 2 feet, but I can't help it. You're just so cute.
And you're smart, and you use that cuteness to your advantage because you're way smarter than everybody else.
Yeah, except when you get to the Pyramidal Rift, he is naive. He is very naive to a point. Especially in talks of if his father would even really listen to the Kingdom of Dalmasca, even though Al says he may have very well listened, but that was never a decided thing.
I think he believes in the system way too much.
Yes.
He's clearly a kid who grew up with the system. You're the system, man.
Yeah. He's very much the system, though I do like he's not completely naive to it, because in the scene at the Gareth village where Ash says, "How dare you, the Empire took all they robbed from us, and you would ask me to enter peace talks with them for Dalmasca," and Larsa says, "Dalmasca would be the battlefield. What if Nethicite were to be used on Rabanastre? You know my brother would do this."
Yeah, it's weird. It's like he thinks the system could work, but he also knows it can do great harm.
Yeah.
It's a really weird thing.
He's
kind of a walking contradiction.
Kind of. It's almost. I think maybe he is a naive optimist in a lot of ways. He's
Yeah.
very much the person who thinks there is a way for it to work out. That's part of the reason he helps the party as much as he does. I think he thinks they are the way that he will get everything back on track.
I definitely I can I yeah, he's a bit of a naive optimist. Um I hope he can make the system work for him for now. Maybe
But
reform.
he but you can't help but love him because he's such a likable character.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's a bit of a pragmatist in a way too.
Yeah.
He's a pragmatist, but I think he has like a moral standing.
Yep.
Um I like some of the judges that are like remain loyal to him.
Yeah, like Drace. Her very much so. And funny enough, the only judge that continues to live after the events of 12 is Zagaboth,
Zagaboth.
the one who stands for order. He and well, spoilers, Bosch are the only two judges after that.
Oh yep. Bosch becomes his judge, his bodyguard.
Yep. So let's talk about Bosch and Gabranth.
The two who pretty much cause everything to happen.
Yep. I should say it's interesting, and the whole thing between Gabranth and Bosch is that they are not, neither of them are from Arcadia or Dalmasca. They are from the Republic of Landis that got sacked during the war.
Of course, it's the Republic and all these monarchies live. I'm sorry, I just like making political jokes about this.
But they both take separate sides.
Right.
They both go their own way.
One just falls to despair and says, "Give up. I'm joining the winning team here."
Yep. And then Bosch goes for the team that didn't completely sack his homeland.
Yeah, that does not work for the people who genocided us, our people.
Yeah.
Um.
And the whole back and forth between them is about whether or not they actually are worth anything after that, whether or not they truly stand for something at the end of the day.
I like how at first you think it is Bosch.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh wait, no, it was his twin brother. I have a question. Did you buy the twin brother thing right away? Because I know that can be very gimmicky really fast.
Yeah, I was surprised you actually didn't say that right off the bat. I thought you were immediately going to say that. When I first heard it, I was like, that seems a little cliche. So I wasn't completely won over by it, though. Going back earlier and hearing Gabranth and Bosch talk to each other, especially in the prison cell, especially when
I'm not against
Gabranth
the twin brother twist. I know some shows. I won't give any spoilers for anybody who wants to watch them that involve that twist. And it's like it works really well in the long run.
But the way Gabranth and Bosch talk to each other, especially when Bosch is in the cell, and when Gabranth says, "You still cling to a dying homeland," and Bosch says, "Better than throwing it away," and then Gabranth says, "Really, as you threw away our homeland."
Wow. Yeah.
So going back with those eyes, you're like, yeah, this is seeded a lot earlier than I thought it was.
That's always a good thing.
So on a second replay, it worked a lot better. And the more Bosch and Gabranth talk to each other, and the more Gabranth even interacts with the rest of the party, there's clearly a lot going on in this guy's head than it's initially at first thought. Because let's face it, Gabranth is the Darth Vader of this game.
He even has a Darth Vader suit.
And in a lot of ways has a Darth Vader character.
Except it's a brother instead of a father.
Yeah, but more so, he kind of
helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Damascus Knights.
But but the funny thing is, he's kind of a pawn in a much larger game because he doesn't have anything else.
Yeah, like Gabranth is the Darth Vader, Vane is the Palpatine, and I guess Sid is Tarkin.
Yeah,
I mean, in some ways, yes.
Yeah. And I especially like toward the end that Bosch kind of wins Gabranth over in the end, where Gabranth really doesn't have anything. He doesn't even have the Empire, and Bosch says, "I do what I must, brother."
Oh, definitely.
And finally at the end when you finally hear Gabran's real name, Noah, and when he's called Noah and he says, "I have no right to be called that by that name," and Bosch just looks at him and says, "Then live and reclaim it."
Well, that's a good line. That's a good line.
And I think that sums their interaction up quite a bit, because we should also talk about the fact with Bosch, Joel, especially with the whole idea of maybe he killed the king, and then his interaction with Vossler.
Mm-hmm.
And how Vossler kind of represents what Bosch wants to be, and then we kind of understand that Bosch is what he wanted to be, what he thought Vossler was, and what it turns out Vossler really isn't.
Oh yeah, that's right. The guard who did betray everybody.
Yeah.
I always forget who that person was for a second. Um, no, I agree. Like I like Bosch because he keeps the faith. He doesn't deter.
Yeah, the one line from Vossler I like when he's talking about Ash about what they're going to do when the treaty is signed and Ash reclaims the throne, and Ash looks at him and says, "Who are you, Vossler, to talk of trust?" And she walks away, and Vossler just mouths, "A son of Dalmasca."
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, ugh, that's the thing. Every character in this game is not just your stereotypical two-dimensional character who is either inherently good
There's
or
lots of
inherently bad.
nuance.
Yes, there's a lot of everyone that each character has flaws that they must overcome.
In a strange way, I guess Final Fantasy XII is the original Star Wars trilogy, but with nuance.
Yeah,
And that's not to say the original Star Wars doesn't have depth or even some nuance, but still, you know what I mean.
yeah.
I'm making a lot of Star Wars references here, people. I'm sorry, but that's where my brain goes.
Well, it's
Uh,
hard not to.
I mean, yeah, everybody's like a Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like about this game. Is like Ron, like Vane makes some good points. Sid makes good points. Everybody makes good points.
It's a conversation in a lot of ways. It's talking about, in a lot of ways, this game is talking about the flaws and inconsistency with imperialism, monarchy, and all those types of things. There's a lot of really interesting discussion that's delved into.
Which I'm glad
Stuff
because I got a little worried it was like pro Empire.
No, and we get further in the game where we realize, oh no, it is definitely not pro Empire.
Thank goodness.
I wouldn't
Although,
say I wouldn't even say it's pro monarchy.
no, I mean, or what about pro bloodlines?
I don't even know. I don't even know if I'd go that far, considering how Thane kind of is that, but he kind of gets knocked off at the end.
That's true. Um, but yeah, there's a. I just love this game. It's like really love the story here.
Yeah,
And I'm not a big Final Fantasy person. But this universe really got to me.
yeah.
Let's talk about the gameplay, Cole. You can want to go on that little stick for a little bit for the actual gamers in our audience.
That's the other thing about this game that initially turned me off. It's a mix between action RPG and standard Final Fantasy RPG, but
I like action RPG more, to be fair.
yes. But this is a little blend of the two, and at first I was a little put off by it. It's kind of like an MMO, and originally it was developed as an MMO.
Oh wow, I did not know this.
I think that's true.
I don't know how, but interesting.
But originally I think that was supposed to be the case. So the gameplay is kind of inspired by that. So it took me a little bit to get used to it, especially the gambit system in this game is very much let the game fight for you, so you don't have to do the hard work. Just set the gambits and it'll do all the tedious stuff for you, or what I consider sometimes to be the fun stuff in Final Fantasy, choosing the commands, strategically trying to figure out what you're going to do next. And the other really odd choice, and this is the other complaint I will peg on the original Final Fantasy XII, is the license system. Originally with the license system, the way the license system works, for every item you buy, you cannot immediately equip because you have to have the license specific for that character. So if as long as you have both, you can equip it. If you have only one, you can't equip it.
That seems very
So
confusing already.
what? And the other, and that may seem confusing. It's pretty straightforward after a while. But the problem is later on in the game, especially in the original version of 12, the characters all became basically the same. There was no variation between them because they all had the same abilities. They all had the same equipment. They had the same everything in a lot of ways. The only thing that was really different about them was their special moves. That was basically it. Thankfully, the Zodiac Age and the International Zodiac Job System and made special license sports specific for certain classes.
Gotcha. That sounds cooler.
And that's the one you see in Final Fantasy and Zodiac Age, the PS4 version.
Right. Thank goodness. Is there anything else we haven't covered, Cole, with this game?
I'm trying to think, is there anything else big that we need to cover?
I like the world.
Yes, Ivalice is a really beautiful world. It feels open. It's a lot more open than most Final Fantasies tend to be.
Let's see. I love the Resistance. Dun, dun, dun.
I like how they're called the Insurgents, and that's kind of the derogatory term for them.
Right,
and Ash continues to say the Resistance.
The Resistance.
There's someone else we need to talk about that I keep forgetting about.
Von Balthier, the Mist, Necessite, the God.
I love the mythological idea. Also, I love the ideas of the Espers.
The God creatures?
Yes. Not the Acuria, but the creatures, the big creatures that would get us summons, the Espers.
Oh, that's right, those guys.
The beings that tried to rebel against the Acuria, but they failed and basically that have to spend their time in servitude.
And that's what happens when you mess with God.
Yeah.
With these gods.
I love the architecture. I love the way the cities look.
I like that futuristic meets medieval look.
Yes, it's a very inspired choice for this kind of game.
We have both mega computers, but also people using swords.
But it's also not just straightforward mega computers. It's kind of in some cases it's almost steampunk kind of computers in a lot of ways, but kind of medieval of what medieval versions of those would look like.
Like Legend of Korra was a little bit.
Yes, very much Legend of Korra.
Which isn't for everybody, but that aesthetic. But I think it works here.
Yeah. Oh no. Sorry. There's one thing we have to. There are two things we have to talk about.
Okay.
Let's talk about Revis.
Revis. Oh. Wait, which one's Revis again?
The one who kills himself trying to destroy the sun crust and does destroy the sun crust.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He serves Ash's character a lot more, and it's especially interesting because he's the one who destroyed Nabadis. Sid's the one who told him to use the Midblight Shard, not knowing what he did. And of course, it completely destroyed Nabadis, and he lived his life trying to go against the Nephesite and what the Imperial saw for. He was an Imperial himself, and because of that, he redeems himself by destroying the Sun Crystal, so nothing like that will ever be used again.
Oh, yes, that's right. I remember him now. Yeah. Man, it must be hard to go into something like that when you destroy an entire civilization.
Especially doing it unknowingly.
Yeah, that's a big whoopsie.
Yeah, I can't imagine how you live through that.
With a lot of guilt.
Especially, and that's what some of his followers say. They said he was never at peace. You would have rather him live and suffer. He's at peace now. If he had continued living, he never would have been at peace.
I'm sure. It's like a suicide, but but a little bit more heroic.
Yeah.
And less sad. Well, still sad because he's dead.
The other thing that I think we should mention, this is one of the few games that I know that deals with when they're doing two opposing empires, only one of the empires gets any light shed on it.
Oh yeah, that's another problem. Problem I got. Like the other empires, like, well, there's this other empire, but we don't really deal with it at all.
Yeah, I agree. We see Al Cid and his assistant, the only two Rosarians we see in the entire game. I like the idea that they're kind of an oligarchy. They're kind of there are kind of separate families that rule Rosaria. I kind of like that. The thing is, we never see it. We don't see the cities. We don't see anything in Rosaria other than maybe the land outside of it. And I
And
feel
for
like
all we
that's
know, they could be just as bad as the Empire.
exactly.
Because they
I mean,
are an empire.
because Alcet's the only way we have any idea of what they look like.
And he's probably all for those guys because he's ruling that country.
Yeah. The only other thing is Andor. Andor's the other character. He's kind of a pawn in a much larger game, but he's still a part of it, especially because he's integral to a lot of the characters in this game, especially Ash.
Right.
But I don't know if there's much to be said about him. He's kind of the narrator of some of the interludes.
Yeah, that was good. I liked that part. We could talk about the prince a little bit if there's anything to say with him.
Not really.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's dead, and his apparition of him kind of gets used by the Akuria to try to slay Ash.
Yeah, not much, sadly.
That's the other thing. I wish we had gotten to see a little more of Nabu Dees before it all got destroyed.
I wish we could see more of that the prince and our Dalmasca too.
Yeah.
We got to see Dalmasca, but pre-Empire Dalmasca.
Yeah.
I wish we could see more of Vaughn's brother.
I do too, because I liked him.
He seemed like a cool dude. Anything else? Are we missing something?
Oh, it's such a big game. No matter how much we talk, there's always going to be something we missed.
Well, that was just gameplay at that point, and little side missions.
Yeah.
I feel like we got all the big stuff down. Yep. But yeah, that's Final Fantasy 12. Who would you recommend these games to, Cole?
If you love Star Wars and you love Final Fantasy in general, but maybe you played this game and didn't necessarily enjoy it, I'd say give it a go if it's been a while. Give it a try. I think you might be impressed.
I mean, I wasn't. I like Star Wars, so this game like right up my alley. Especially like politics, like politics, like big political, moral questions and geo wars and whatnot. And this game is it's for you. It's good. Too bad we'll never see it though in Kingdom Hearts.
As far as we know.
Sora's not the brightest when it comes to the big geopolitical stuff.
Yeah. I guess the next one we'll talk about is Final Fantasy X, because I feel like there's going to, especially when we get to the later half of the game, there's going to be some very interesting stuff to talk about.
I can't wait for that. Of course, now I can only think about Sora just trying to look at the geopolitical map and like going, he wouldn't know. But boy, did we talk about a lot of games today.
Yeah.
Woo! Man, we have been going for an hour 37. This was a good one, folks. This was
a good one.
Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac Age. So should we wrap up? Any last minute things? Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Please hear some music. I wish I had some cool music playing in the background, but I don't. I'm not editing. But, yep, and that was another Shoot in the Sky, people. Until next time, later.
Later.